Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to do something fun today. This was actually in response to a request.
Several requests.
Yes. A few videos ago, we talked about the Maine trip, my family going to Maine for my parents' 50th anniversary, and I talked a little bit about each sibling in that video. And so we got some requests after that if we could talk about Michael's family and a little bit about her siblings as well. So we're going to start off doing that with a little bit of trivia. So if you want to get a pencil and paper, you can write down questions. There's going to be 19, so just list 1 to 19. And I'm going to ask some questions, and you get to choose which sibling this pertains to, this specific question. Okay, first question. Who was the first family member to have a cast? So they broke a bone and needed a cast. Who was the first one? Question number 2. Who was the first lefty in the Bates family? Number 3, who most hates cold weather? Number 4, who was the first sibling to graduate college? Number 5, who was the first to own a family pet and what was it? Number 6, who was the first ambulance ride? So who had a medical emergency, needed the ambulance? Which sibling was first? Number 7, and these aren't all Zach, by the way, these firsts. Yeah, each one is a different sibling, so don't double guess anybody here. Number 7, who does not like to fly? So who in the Bates family has the strongest aversion to flying in a plane? Number 8, who is the shortest labor? Who took the shortest amount of time to be born? Number 9, whose nickname was Chipmunk as a child? That one's got a kind of funny story behind it.
Most of these do.
Yes. Number 10, who is the longest labor? So who took the longest to be born in that process of labor? Number 11, who is the only sibling to be airlifted? So there was a medical emergency that required an airlift. Which sibling was that for? Number 12, who was the first person to yodel? Which Bates sibling was the first to yodel? 13, whose favorite food was salad as a child? So who was a little health nut growing up, I guess? 14, who could name most of their bones before the age of 4? Which Bates sibling could name almost all, or was all of their bones?
I don't know, it was give or take on some days, so it was pretty much most.
Okay, most of the bones before the age of 4. Who was that? 15, which of the Bates siblings always woke up happy?
This moves it down to slim choices, because most of us are not morning people.
The Bates are very much late night people, so this is unique. Number 16, which sister is the best at archery? So that narrows it down to half the family right there, the sister. Who's the best at archery? 17, who had their appendix removed as a child? And I guess the only one to have it removed?
Mm-hmm. The only, so far.
The only sibling to have their appendix removed. 18, who climbed out the window as a child during nap time?
Sneaky, sneaky.
Uh-oh, who is that? And finally, 19, who is the only child with curly hair? Which Bates sibling was the only one with curly hair? So we'll come back for the answers to these 19 questions. But first, we're just going to chat a little bit about each sibling and some words that we think describes them well as individuals.
In my earliest childhood, I just vividly remember Zach always reading a book. He would lay out on the ground and read a book. He would be upside down and read a book. He just always had learning. A book, always learning. And so I just think him as very smart. I can't count the times I've called him just to answer a question. And then if an opportunity arises, he seizes it, whatever the opportunity is. And so I feel like now he wears a lot of hats. He's been in government. He has done law enforcement. He's realtor. He's now cooking channel on YouTube. So that's what I think describes Zach.
And a little story on Zach, just kind of maybe some first impressions I had meeting the family years ago. I could quickly tell that he was good at wrestling. That might seem very random, but her dad wrestled in high school and he taught his boys.
Yep.
Okay, right. And so anyway, Zach learned well. I think this was at Aaron's wedding. It was the reception area, and people were just mingling and eating. And one of the film producers came up behind him, and he was just playing a prank, but he came behind Zach, and he grabbed him around the neck like this. And this is probably...
Don't bear hug Zach.
Zach did not know who it was that just came and grabbed him in the back. And he took that guy by the arms, went down like this, and that guy goes right over Zach and lands, boom, right on the floor in front of him. And what Zach saw who it was, I think he apologized, like, oh, sorry about that. They thought he was fine, but he just got up. He's like, I'm never doing that again.
Zach.
Don't scare Zach.
No. Next, we come to Erin. Erin is spunky. She is so much fun. She is incredibly creative. I remember when we were little, Erin and I shared a bedroom, and I guess we were probably maybe 10 and 11, 9 and 10, and she asked Mom if she could paint it however she wanted it, and she painted, like, we had little 1-inch squares checkerboarded across the floor. She measured it all out. She painted a beehive up the wall, and she's just very, very creative, and I feel like that's carried over into her adult years with her music and now everything that they have designed that's scripture related on their website. So creativity, I feel like, is something that really encapsulates Erin.
One early memory I had of her, this was kind of funny. It was actually at Nathan's graduation party, and Michael was in the kitchen cooking, getting all the food, different things ready, and I was there chopping fruit, helping out that way. And Erin comes waltzing in, she sits down on the counter, and she starts eating the fruit that I've chopped up. And I was thinking, hey, this is for the party tomorrow. You can't just... And I think it came up that she was... she couldn't cook anything, but she could test it. At that point in time, she didn't cook at all.
She did not enjoy cooking.
She didn't enjoy cooking at all, which is really funny because I made the comment at that point, Rachel Ray was this television cook on TV, and I didn't follow her really, but I was aware of, she was a cook on TV, and I made some kind of comment about Erin and Rachel Ray, and Erin came back with a comment, hey, you never know, I might be a bloomin' Rachel Ray, who knows?
Boy, was she.
And it's funny because years later, she's like this gourmet cook. Like, she definitely followed through on that and became this amazing cook. And
she's all in whatever she does.
She is.
Whatever it is. When she wanted to learn to cook, it was, she pours her heart into everything she does.
Yeah.
Next, we have Lawson. Lawson makes me laugh. He's comical. I didn't put that on my list, but he brings laughter to every event. But for Lawson, I wrote down charitable and generous and a dreamer. Lawson has a heart for children. He has a heart for the underprivileged. He spends so much of his free time at different children's hospitals, and he does benefits to raise awareness for children's illnesses, and so he just really has a soft spot in his heart, and he spends a lot of time trying to meet needs and minister to those who are less fortunate or who are going through medical problems. But at the same time, he's just so funny. Sometimes with those words, I feel like you think it would be this serious, studious-minded person, but Lawson just brings laughter everywhere he goes.
When we have a party at her parents' house, his mind's in the party, and it's just exciting, and it's
He's
great.
our biggest hype man.
Right. But if it's bad, which was one instance that I had was right before we got married, I slipped on an ice rink, bashed my head, and it was bleeding and so forth. And so we're driving. Nathan is in the driver's seat. I'm next to him.
This is like 3 days before our wedding.
Right,
2 days before,
right
before
our wedding. Anyway, Lawson's in the back seat, and he's like, he's got a concussion. We need to take him to the hospital. He's got a concussion. He's going to get sick. I'm just thinking, if he doesn't stop talking, I'm going to get sick. I was just trying to, stop the bleeding and so forth. Thankfully, I didn't have a concussion, and it was fine. But anyway, it was just, Lawson's just all in and anything but that really goes, it's really a strong suit of his. In relation to that, it's like when he went to the Philippines.
Yes.
And there was, he was ministering among orphans and, so forth, and there was this little girl who needed medical attention. And how long did he advocate her cause to get her help?
He went to the Philippines so many times, and he called hospitals and doctors, and he worked out for her to have treatment.
Because this little girl was going to die if she didn't get it. And, I mean, Lawson, he was all in, and he got the help she needed.
Yep.
I mean, so...
It took a long time, but he will not give up, and he cares so deeply.
He does.
For the children in need. So he just,
Right.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Next, we have Nathan. Nathan is a daredevil. Nathan is ambitious. He has no fear. He puts his mind to it, and he will complete it. He is a pilot. He is a pilot instructor. He can do swiftwater rescue. If it can be related to helping people in some type of emergency, he will go to training and learn how to do it because his passion is to help people and to help people in a crisis. So he will drop everything, and he will be in the middle of whatever crisis there is that he can potentially get to if a life can be saved. And he has no fear. He will risk his own life, but he will be there. And even in his fun, he has no fear in his adventures. I think getting a wife has been good for him.
Yes.
Because he is a tiny bit more cautious.
Yes.
But he's just, he is all in, and probably the most ambitious person that I personally know.
Yeah, yeah. And Nathan was actually the reason I was kind of befriended into the Bates family to begin with, because Nathan knows no strangers, I don't think.
He doesn't. And he knew I liked you. He was going to help me out.
Yes, and we have some stories on that as well. But Nathan, I mean, the daredevil side, or the just, I don't know what it is, what the right word for it is, but he would scare me sometimes.
He scared my mom too.
Because of it. I mean, when I first met their family, you and Nathan, I don't know if Zach was anymore, but first responder.
Yep. We're in a pretty rural area, and a lot of our medical calls and fires are all taken care of by volunteer fire departments. So first responders take care of the basic medical life-saving needs until the ambulance arrives. So that was...
Yeah.
I don't think that's in most big cities, but in a lot of the rural communities down here, volunteer fire and first responder help out a lot.
Nathan was a first responder, so he had a walkie-talkie when he went to bed, and he was listening to calls. If there was an emergency, he would chip in. Well, I was staying up in, that first visit, I was up, in the guy's room, and I heard Nathan's walkie-talkie go off, in the middle of the night on the other side of the room. And Nathan bounds out of bed, and he's gonna go, and I think he asked me, he's like, "Hey, do you want to come along, get the experience?" And I'm thinking, why not? What do I have to lose? Turns out I had a lot to lose. But I was like, hey, this sounds great. I've never done this. So we go downstairs. She's already down there. She's getting ready to go out the door. Nathan, he's ready to go out the door. And I get in the car with Nathan, and I sit up front. And he starts tearing down those back roads that they got here in Tennessee, lines and all, at a speed that was not safe in my estimation. It's just like he was just driving around, and I'm clutching my seat. I didn't think we were going to make it to help the person he was on the way to help. But he knew the roads better than I was. We probably weren't going as fast as it seemed like.
It feels faster when you're not used to the curves.
They were straight roads up north. You see where you're going in Tennessee, you lose that. But Nathan knew the roads, and we were okay. We survived, and he got to the place to help the person in need. So anyway, Nathan definitely has a daredevil side, but his heart is all there, and he is there to help, and he's gotten in places because of that and helped people that so many others would be scared to go into those environments, I feel like. But he risks it to help people, and he'll
take any risk to save a life.
He will.
So.
Yeah.
Next is Alyssa, and Alyssa stands out to me. One thing that I really think about her is organized. She has been this way since she was just little, tiny, and even now she's like that. She loves a clean house. She loves order. It's just amazing to watch her. She takes her kids everywhere with her, and nothing really is too much of a challenge for her. As a mom, she just loves having her kids, but you'll see her pack up all her little people, and she'll be organized, and they'll have their little backpacks, and she's just gotten a routine, and everything is so orderly, and so
Functions well.
she does. She really does. So I see bits of her, and she reminds me a lot of my mom in my early years watching her, and I think that's the attribute that stands out the most about her. And also that she's pretty much up for anything. You can text her and say, I want to visit, and she's like, okay, the guest room's ready, and she'll do anything on a moment's notice. She'll stay up late and hang out, she'll get up early, and she's a fun sister.
A kind of funny story with Alyssa. I think this was also during my first visit to your families.
I'm gonna do stuff around after all, we shocked you.
They're night owls. I mean, after the sun goes down is when they wake up, it seems like. Of course, that's after the work is over and so forth. But anyway, it was dark. And I was thinking like everybody's up and around, and I asked the question, and I don't think I was asking for the immediate moment to do it, but it's like, is there anything fun in the area? And someone brought up, it's like, oh, have you ever seen Norris Dam, this huge dam, you know, in the area? I was like, no, I've never seen that. It's like, and maybe it was Nathan. He's like, oh, you might enjoy that. You should go. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so a bunch of Michael's sisters were like, oh yeah, we should go, that'd be fun. I was like, okay. But Nathan's like, I'm tired, I think I'm going to go to bed, but you can go ahead. I was like, okay. So Nathan, he's not going, but all the girls want to go. I guess this is fine. And so the girl's like, oh, why don't you drive? You know, you're the guy, you can be the driver. It's like, sure, I can be the driver. So we stalk in. I'm trying to remember. I think it was you down to like Josie, maybe?
It was a whole bunch of us.
So a bunch of the girls.
Like I said, Alyssa's up for anything.
Right. Alyssa was one of these people. And so we're driving along, you know, and the dam is cool. It's lit up at night. It's pretty. But anyway, I'm not unfamiliar with the area, okay?
You're not used to this many curves.
Well, no, I'm not. And at the end of the dam, once you cross it, it's got like a little parking area on this side and a parking area on this side. But on this side, it's one way. Like you're supposed to go in one drive and out the other one. I'm approaching this drive, and this is the summertime, okay? The windows are down. So I'm going, and they're like,
embarrass me.
So I'm going, trying to find parking so we can get out and look at this thing. And the girls are like, oh, park over there, park over there. Well, I go to pull in the drive and not seeing the arrow, so I'm going in the wrong side of the one way. And Alyssa, she screams. She's like, no, wrong one. She screams it so loud, and I mean, they're just laughing because I'm messing up everything in my driving. So anyway, so I was a little uncertain, but anyway, she screams this just as a police officer is driving past us going the other way. His windows were down as well, so he heard this scream coming from our car. And it's like, oh no. And all the girls, they're like, oh, don't worry, we know every officer in the county. You know, Zach had worked with them or something.
Zach had been working with the police department for a little while, so I thought we knew everybody.
So they're like, oh, it's okay, he'll know us, we know them. And so, and I'm sitting there, and the police officer puts his, flashes his lights on. He gets out of his car with his flashlight, and he comes up, and he's looking in the windows, and he sees all these girls in the car, and he gets to me, the one guy with all these girls in a car. And he's like, what are you doing out here? So we told him and so forth, and he's like, it's a little late, I think you need to go home. And so I was like, okay. And then he leaves, and then the girls go, oh, that's strange, we never met him before. So the one stranger police officer. Anyway, I guess that wasn't specifically Alyssa's fault. I was misdriving, but that was just a memory that stands out as we started our relationship. Her and John were preparing, for their wedding, and she asked me to be an usher so I could come down and we could be together for that. It
meant we got to spend a lot more time together during the week of the wedding festivities, and we were still new in our relationship, so that was a huge kindness.
Yes, that was very, very appreciated.
Next in the line is Tori, and she comes right after Alyssa. They are just 13 months apart, and Tori is fun-loving, she is full of laughter, and intentional. Tori is a very, very intentional person in her parenting, in her relationships. She pours her whole heart into it, and she thinks through different things. So it's very thought-provoking watching her and being around her. I feel like our conversations are always challenging, but at the same time, she is so funny and so full of laughter And she has been a little giggle box since she was just a tiny tot. She gets laughing uncontrollably sometimes, and it's probably one of your first memories of her.
Yeah, there's a story on that. We were at an event, and we went out to a Cracker Barrel to eat. There was some of my siblings were there, and some of your siblings were there, and so we go to this Cracker Barrel, and I don't know what it was that struck Tori funny, but she thought it was hilarious. But the funny thing was, the waitress that was waiting on the table, Tori has a unique laugh. It's very high pitched, so everyone around can hear.
So happy.
It is. It's
contagious.
It's great to hear and makes you laugh too, but it is very distinct, and so you don't hear many of the same people have that laugh. But Tori started laughing, and the waitress that was waiting on us had the exact same laugh. And they look at each other, and Tori's like, "You have the same laugh as me," and they started feeding off each other in the middle of Cracker Barrel.
It was so fun.
Just started this roaring laugh, and I was so embarrassed. I wanted to crawl under the table.
He did, and I thought I'm never gonna have a chance to date him.
It's like, oh no, because it was just this happy, high-pitched laughter, and the waitress goes back to the kitchen. And we heard her still laughing back in the kitchen. It was just this funny interaction. But yes, Tori will make a good time out of anything. She
was a giggle box as a kid, and she's still fun now. It's been cool watching her too. She has 5 littles now, and just her intentionality with parenting. She's just really, really great.
Her and Bobby do so well with their kids.
Next in line is Trace, and Trace stands out to me now as athletic. He was not always the most athletic growing up. It was not, I think, a thing that he loved as much, but he really just pours his heart into things, and he really values family. He loves time with family. He cuts out time out of his schedule to make sure that he's present, and that's really cool. And through that, I feel like, is how he really became athletic. And now it's one of the first words that pops in my mind. He's into pickleball, he does basketball, he does skiing, and he's quite good at all of it. But I feel like his interest started more in that, to be with the older boys and to be with family, and he just got really good really quick. But
he always loved horse riding, I feel like.
He did. He's good at everything he does. I just feel like it wasn't his primary love, but he loves family and valued family time. And then as soon as he did it, he's just good at it. He's good at everything. So that's what stands out in my mind about Trace.
And when I first met her family, it almost feels like going back in time now, because it happened again with Jeb. But I felt like Trace was my little buddy when I first met them. He was just this kind little guy. And just fun living.
Now he grew up.
Yeah, he grew up. Now he's got his own little guy, and it's funny though. It seems very much like how Jeb is now. That was Trace.
Yep.
Years back, and
if Mom sends out a group text that there's going to be dinner at the family house or game night or pickleball, whatever it is, we can always count on Trace is going to be there, because he's going to be there for all the family things. So he's fun. He'll stay up late, play card games, just wherever the family is.
Yeah.
Next up is Carlin, and Carlin is probably the most animated sibling. She is the life of the party all the time. I think she wakes up just ready to go all the time. And Carlin is also very adventurous. She will go anywhere, do anything. It's just been fun to see her now grown up and a mom, and she's kept her same animated personality all of her life.
It was really fun to listen to her yodel.
Yes.
She learned to yodel when she was good.
She was little.
She was little, but she was good at it. And so it was always fun to hear that. And then fast forward, years later, when she was getting married, she was actually the first of your siblings to have both of us walking together in a wedding. So Michael had been in weddings that I was the usher for, so technically I guess we were all in the wedding party. But Carlin was the first one to think of, we'll have both of you and you'll be walking together. So very much appreciated.
I think Carlin had the biggest wedding party.
Okay.
I think she had all the siblings.
It was very pretty.
Yes, it was. She's just fun. And I think one thing about Carlin, you know, just animated in life of the party and watching her go through some of the health issues that she went through the previous years and still finding the good in all the things, even though she couldn't drive for a while, but getting with her, it wasn't always the topic of conversation, so she just still enjoyed life, and that was inspirational. Next in the lineup is Josie, and I feel like in the past few years, Josie and I have gotten even closer. She's almost 10 years younger than me, so growing up, it was just like big sister, little sister. But now that she's married and has kids, I feel like we're kind of going through some of the same things in life, and we've gotten rather close, not just big sister, little sister. But for her, she really stands out to me as someone who is just very, very generous, but generous in a way that she is very observant of things that people like and need and want, and then she'll just surprise you. You may not know who it's from, or you may know who it's from, but she just does little things to let you know that she cares, and she's a good gift giver. Her and Keilen both, they just care deeply. They're generous to people that they're close to. They're generous to people that they don't know, people that can't pay them back. And I feel like both of them as a team are always looking for a way to be a blessing to people, and they're watching for those different details. So I would say for Josie, observant and generous.
One thing that stands out in early memory with Josie, she seemed like she had a sense of style awareness, you know, early on.
Always.
And it was really funny because there was this one event her family was at. I was also there, and I think it was around Christmas time, and it was after the event, so I think we were cleaning everything up, and there was like table runners and things, and she decided she was gonna, I think, treat one of those table runners like a shawl or like a something to wear around her head. And I think it was kind of shiny a little bit, and so anyway, she gets this and she puts it around her head, kind of like a scarf,
little bell scarf.
And, yeah, and anyway, she comes up, and I mean, she's only 10 or something, and I'm you know, halfway kidding here, but she shows up with this thing, and I'm like, oh my, aren't you pretty? And she didn't know how to take that. She's like, okay, you're weird. And she turns around and walks away.
It's fun for me hearing Brandon relive some of these things, because I forget that we've known each other for over 15 years. And so he came into the family when Jeb was not even born yet. So he has memories of my siblings when they're...
your family.
Yes.
Yeah.
So his first memories are when my siblings are all, you know, 10, 15 years younger, in their little tyke years when they still had all their funny moments before adulthood. We are now to the halfway point.
Oh, wow.
So we're halfway there.
We might have a part 2 of this. Come back next week for...